calf pain with running is super common. Most runners have suffered with it at some point, and some runners have it as a sort of ongoing issue that they really struggle with long term. However, what most runners don't realize is that the things that they are doing to fix this calf pain are actually only treating the symptoms and not getting to the root cause of the problem. So some of the things that runners are doing who are getting this calf pain when they're running are things like, the most obvious one is like stretching, right? So my calves feel tight and painful, the day I do a run or the day after, so I'm going to stretch them, right? Because it feels good and it does kind of make it feel a bit better. And they also sort of think that maybe the tightness in the calves is coming from the fact that their calves aren't flexible enough. The other things that you'll often see runners doing is things like foam rolling or using like a massage gun or a massage ball. If they go to a provider like a physiotherapist, chiropractor kind of thing, they'll often do things with them like, acupuncture, dry needling, scraping with tools. What else do they do? Active release technique. All of these things, they're all in the same bucket. These are all things that are treating the symptoms, the tightness and the pain. But they are not getting to the root cause, i.e., why is the pain and tightness happening in the first place? Now, this would be okay if you're talking about like a transient symptom. So if you very occasionally get calf tightness after or during a run, that's no big deal, and doing these things is plenty solution enough. But if it's an ongoing issue that you've had for some time that is restricting your running or really just kind of annoying you on the days between runs, then it really needs a more comprehensive solution that gets to the root cause of the issue instead of just treating the symptoms. I forgot the other one that's really common nowadays is like compression devices like socks or what do you call them, like pants that you can wear for running. That's another common thing that runners will use to try and prevent it. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work. So although it is trying to get into the prevention mode, it's not helping because they don't work very well for preventing or treating this calf pain. Okay, so how do we get to the root cause of this, and how do we actually address the reason that the calf pain is happening in the first place? So first we have to understand what's going on. So when you go out for a run, you are causing some damage to the calf muscles. That's normal. When you then rest that night, you go to bed, the next day you're not running. When you rest, the body is going to repair the damage that was done to the calf, and then it's going to supercompensate. Supercompensation means it doesn't just repair what was the damage that was done to the calf muscle. It repairs it and then makes it a bit stronger so that next time you're better able to do that thing. That's called supercompensation, and this is the normal training effect that we see when we adapt to any kind of training. What happens if you get persistent or more like chronic calf tightness and pain from running is you go out and do your run, you cause some damage to the calf, which is normal, that's part of it. And then when you rest, you either don't rest long enough, you don't rest long enough before you then go out and run again. So you get incomplete repair. So there's more damage than can be repaired during the rest period. So by the time you go out and run again, you're running on calf muscles that have not finished even repairing from the last run, never mind repairing and supercompensating. So there hasn't been enough time between those two runs to repair the damage that was done to your muscles. So as opposed to a training effect, I call this the breakdown cycle, because people get stuck in this cycle of run, damage, incomplete repair, run, more damage, incomplete repair, run, more damage, incomplete repair. That's how the calf tightness and pain can build up over a number of weeks and get stuck in this sort of chronic loop that people get stuck in. Essentially what is happening is the running is putting more stress and doing more damage to the calf muscles than they can adapt to within a given period of time. So be it a week or a month, there is more stress being placed on the calves by the running than they can actually adapt to. And that's the primary problem. That's the root of it. And that's what we have to fix if we're going to fix this problem. And we can attack this through the lens of my 3 critical components that are the keys to pain-free running, right? So it's build the muscle, strengthen the structure, refine the technique. Or said a little more simply, it is strength, resilience, and biomechanics. So if we look at this problem through that lens, the solution starts to emerge. So if we start with resilience, essentially what we're talking about here is the running. You have to reduce the training load on the calves because we know that the calf muscles cannot adapt to the training load at the rate that it is currently being applied. If you do not reduce the training load in some way, be that by running less frequently, for less duration, or running more slowly, i.e. with less intensity, if you don't reduce the training load, then you will not be able to get out of this cycle. And that means that nothing else you do will help. So nothing else that I discuss in the next little bit will help. And all of the things that you're doing to reduce the symptoms, they won't help either, because the training load will always remain above the adaptive capacity of your calf muscles, and they will stay in this breakdown cycle. Now, that being said, we're talking about reducing the training load running wise temporarily, right? This is not a long-term solution, but we do need to get the training load down so that the calves are not being constantly overloaded and just stuck in this breakdown cycle. Then we're going to start, so once we've done that, we're going to start looking at the other critical components, right? So if we think about the biomechanics, in this one, we're going to look at, did something change? So if this is a new issue, or if you've just get into running, then you would handle it a little bit differently. If this is a new issue, then it's like, did something change that might have affected my biomechanics that might increase the load on my calves from each run? So that would be a new pair of shoes, changing your technique deliberately, or running on different surfaces than you normally do. Those things will change biomechanics. And if you have done one of those and you're now getting this calf overload pain, then it may be that the way you're running is putting more stress on your calves than the old way of running. That's not to say that it's like bad overall, but it is to say that the calves are under more stress, and currently they can't adapt to that more stress. So depending on if you find that one of these things has been a causal factor, you're going to have to address that thing, be it changes in your shoes, your technique, or the surface you're running on. It's kind of beyond the scope of this episode. I have lots of others about technique and biomechanics, but for the purposes of this episode, you have to change back or reintroduce that change more slowly. If you are new to running and you're having this problem, it's been going on like more than, say, 6 weeks, it may be that just the way you happen to run is very hard on your calf muscles. And it's worth having a professional look at the way you're running to assess, is this putting more stress on my calf muscles than is reasonable? And it's making it really hard for these calf muscles to adapt. Can we distribute that load more evenly by changing my biomechanics? Again, exactly how to do that is beyond the scope of this episode, but that's the path you would take. So now that we've done those things, right? So in terms of resilience, we've reduced the training load temporarily to get back in the adaptive zone so that the calves are not stuck in that breakdown cycle. We've altered the biomechanics back if we had changed them, or we're introducing that change more slowly, or we're going to look at the biomechanics. If you're a new runner and you're having this problem, you're going to look at the biomechanics with a professional to see what's going on. Once we've done those things, then we can look at strength, okay? So with strength, what we're trying to do is increase the strength of the calf muscles so that each running step, each time you propel yourself forward by pushing with your calf, it's comparatively easier. So if your muscles are twice as strong, then each time you push yourself forward for each running step is going to be quite a lot easier. That's where increasing the strength of the calf muscles will allow you to do the same run with less damage on the calf muscle, which will mean that there's more likely you can repair that damage and super compensate to it before the next run. Now, the big caveat here, and this is where I see a lot of particularly rehab professionals go wrong, is that they have the right problem, but they're doing it in the wrong order. If you haven't reduced the training load and addressed any biomechanical factors that are relevant, adding in strength training for your calves is going to damage your calves, because when you're running, you're causing that micro damage to the calves, and that's what the body repairs and super compensates. It's the same when you do strengthening of your calves. So if you do calf raises, you're damaging your calves. That's fine. That's what it's supposed to do. But then it needs to repair and super compensate to that as well. So if you don't accommodate some room for that in your training load by reducing the running, then all you're doing is taking calf muscles that can't adapt to the amount of running you're doing and then adding some strength training on top of it, right? Which is just going to make it worse. So you have to get this in the right order. And when you do that, when you make your calf muscles stronger, then they'll be less damaged by each run. But it's going to take a couple of months before that happens. So you need that couple of months to do it. And in the meantime, you need to get that training load down. You need to make sure the biomechanics are correct. Now, this is what this process of three-pronged attack is what allows you to get out of that breakdown cycle, right? Where you get out of the run, damage, incomplete repair, run again, damage, more incomplete repair, right? That breakdown cycle, you can get out of that by changing the training load, checking the biomechanics are correct, then progressively strengthening the calf muscles. It's going to take 2 or 3 months, right, to reverse that cycle and get into the correct cycle, the training effect, which is where we run, we have some damage, then we repair the damage, then we super compensate before the next run. And that's when we get into that cycle, now we're in a training effect, or what I like to call the adaptive zone. Then your calves are getting stronger each run rather than getting weaker. Now, although this is not quite as easy and it doesn't feel, you don't get that quick reward that you get with some of the other treatments like stretching and foam rolling and massage, because they feel better at the time. They do reduce the pain usually. They do feel good when you do them and they feel better usually afterwards, but they don't get to the root cause. This does get to the root cause, but you will feel no immediate benefits, right? And as you're trying to figure this stuff out, you might find you make your calf soreness a little bit worse, right? So as you're trying to figure this out and then gradually dial it back up, it's going to take you 2, 3, 4 months, right? To get the training load down so you get out of that cycle and then you pay off the debt of the damage that you've done, right? You pay that off and then you start to increase the strength by adding the strength training. And then you start to build the running back up to the kind of volume you want to do. And then further, it takes a few months because those effects, they take weeks into months those adaptations, they take weeks into months to take effect. So it is a longer term play, but if you've had calf pain and tightness for a long time, you'll be okay with that 2-3 months of this process. And the bonus is, and this is why it's worthwhile strengthening your calves for all you guys, is increasing your calf strength that will increase your running economy as well. So not only will you be able to get faster because you'll now be able to train unrestricted by calf pain, so you'll be able to run faster and run further without needing so much recovery time, you'll also be able to run more economically because your muscles are stronger. And when you're working on your calf strength, that's like an extra bonus point, because we know when we run, most of the propulsive power, about 50%, comes from the calf, with only, the other 50% comes from like the thigh and sort of glutes and hip region, right? So most of it comes from that calf muscle. Meaning that if you increase the strength of your calf muscle, that's the best muscle to increase strength in terms of running economy. So you'll be more economical, so you'll be able to train harder and you'll be able to run more efficiently. So it's a double bonus. So it's well worth the time to do this if you are having calf soreness. But like I say, if you had this problem for a long time, it can be very frustrating and you may have tried lots of things already and be a little bit frustrated, and it does take a few months, but we've done it lots of times with people. So if you want some help with this, just click the link as usual in the description, book a call with us, and we'll have a chat and see if we can map out a plan to get you back to running as much as you want.